We're live.
Okay, folks. I'll say that. We're live. Welcome back, everybody, to House Energy and Digital Infrastructure. It is Thursday, February 19th, and we are going to have a committee discussion and probably a straw poll on our letter to House Appropriations. So,
Thank you.
as folks know, we've taken quite a bit of testimony on the areas of the budget that are under our purview. I drafted a letter to Approps and sent it out to the committee. We talked about it, I revised it, and it's now posted on our webpage under other documents, FY27 budget, and then Wednesday, February 18th, FY27 budget, Hedi. So, we had worked closely with and take testimony from JFO to try to make sure that we understood the ADS, the changes to the ADS budget this year. And so we had asked JFO to review the letter, make sure it's accurate. That's the most important thing. And then if folks have any final questions for JFO before we, walk through this, make sure it's what we want, and then start talking about the different sections. So anyway, I'm Representative Kathleen James from Manchester.
Scott Campbell from St. Johnsbury. Richard Bailey, Lamoille 2. Chris Morrow, Wyndham, Windsor, Bennington. Michael Southworth, Caledonia 2.
Christopher Howland, Rutland 4.
Sarah Torrey, Washington 2.
Graham Klutner, Chittenden 13, Burlington.
Morris William 2.
All right. And in the room, I'm Caitlin with Action Circles. Great. All righty, for the record.
The record, James Duffy, Joint Fiscal Office.
Super.
So, Madam Chair, you had asked JFO to take a look at the final draft of the committee letter that you all prepared for House Appropriations. I've reviewed that letter, as has Lisa Govin, JFO's IT consultant, and having followed the testimony from ADS and from Finance and Management about the issues covered in your committee letter through the various committees' jurisdiction this budget season, and having reviewed the letter, I can tell you this reflects my understanding of the issues and the proposals that ADS has put forward for the FY27 budget cycle. And as someone who works for House Appropriations, thank you for putting together a letter that describes the proposals well. I think this is really useful for to exist out in the world to describe these proposals. Just to quickly cover the main points that the letter speaks to. We're looking at, first and foremost, I think from the Appropriations Committee's point of view, an overall increase in $14 million in general fund pressure under this FY27 proposal. That's composed of a new $9 million direct general fund appropriation to the Agency of Digital Services, as well as a net increase in billback authority at ADS of $5 million, about $5 million, summing to $14 million in new general fund authorization through ADS. This largely represents work that ADS has testified they are already doing, but are not adequately recovering the cost of. So while this represents a new general fund pressure in the sense that it is a new direct appropriation in that $9 million, what you all have heard and what I've heard from ADS and from Finance and Management is that this is a recognition of work already being done that simply wasn't being paid for lack of a finer way to put it. So the intent of this is really to address the multi-year deficits that have been accruing in the CIT fund. And that's covered in your letter. The other piece that you speak to in your letter is the shifting of $47 million in spending authority from ADS for bespoke large-scale IT projects to specific sponsoring agencies. This is something we looked into at JFO. We heard from the agencies, from Finance and Management, from ADS. This makes sense to us. And I did note that you flagged some of the committee's concerns going forward, just making sure that statutory reporting requirements continue to be met under this new structure, and certainly appreciate that, the committee raising that concern for appropriators to know about it and follow up on going forward. I think you all heard from Finance and Management that they've given you their word that they will continue to meet their reporting requirements under this new structure. I know you'll all be looking to hold them to that going forward and continue to exercise your oversight. So appreciate your attention to that. Madam Chair, is there anything else that you would like to hear from JFO apart from, we reviewed the letter and it makes sense and conforms with our understanding of the proposals?
No, I know we'll want to hear from Lisa too, and then committee members may have questions. Yeah.
I think,
Sibylle?
I think my question is for Lisa, and it had to do with our second bonus visit with Commissioner Grushin,
Okay,
and around just really not knowing, not having a comprehensive place. Did you get to see that testimony where we know what is being proposed every year?
I think I can help with that.
Then I'm sure.
okay. Do we have questions for James? Great, appreciate your time. All right. Lisa,
Hey. James.
For the record, Lisa Goffin, JFO, IT consultant. So around the question on where we can see where the information is available and for upcoming projects, we can still use the annual report for that. Yeah, I think so.
It's not upcoming projects. So, I mean, it's the question that I am very specifically connected to is when the governor presents a budget, what money in that to the legislature, this year's budget, how do we know how much money he has proposed for IT projects besides just going to every different department and agency? And I don't mean like the ADS charges. I'm talking,
Yeah.
the concern is we have a lot of IT infrastructure that needs to be modernized or that is in the process of being modernized. How do we know what the governor has? How are we able to see comprehensively what the governor is prioritizing for IT investments in a given year?
That's
And I
great
believe
because
the
I usually
answer,
get it from JFO.
Commissioner Grushin, it doesn't exist. In my
Yeah.
law.
Representative, if I may, Madam Chair.
Yeah.
Representative Sebeli, I also tuned into that testimony after the fact. Commissioner Gresham's understanding is my own as well. If I, JFO, am asked by a member of the committee to look into a specific project that already received an appropriation in previous year and what's happening with that project in this current fiscal year, I will go into that individual agency's budget documents, budget details, or to contact their business manager and or ADS to get information about that specific project. I am not aware of a resource that gives JFO or you all visibility, that kind of comprehensive visibility into the current fiscal year proposed appropriations or allocations for
Yeah, not,
IT projects across all branches and agencies. The way I would go about doing it now is to dig in to each individual agency or department's budget details.
and that's how I get the information now. When the budget comes out, JFO will contact me about what, areas of the budget that include IT spending. That's
Good.
new. So that's not a change.
And so that makes it very doable to do it on a case by case basis. But your question about getting that 30,000 foot view, it's a heavy lift to go through.
But I also haven't run into a case where an IT project that's supposed to start in at least the calendar year doesn't appear on that annual report.
So, and thank you. All of this information is really helpful. Perhaps all of you saw my contorted face when Commissioner Grushin was first in here, just trying to grasp it. So I think my question has been answered, and my concern, I think I can now articulate clearly, and it's a structural concern within the legislature and with this reporting and our ability to provide oversight. Without oversight in terms of financial prioritization. So this is the IT committee, which has been formed and disbanded and formed and disbanded. I know that some jurisdictions have been changed in the Senate trying to grapple this. So there's some changing and adjusting that's trying to happen within the legislature. I don't know that we've got it yet. And this oversight committee does not have the ability to see what is the priority this year for spending and with limited dollars in a comprehensive way without combing through the whole budget.
Yeah.
So that is my concern. I think the chair has worked to articulate that. I think it's fairly well articulated in here. I don't know that we've resolved it, but I think we need to think about resolving it. If we're to provide some sort of financial oversight, right? So I mean,
Yeah.
the governor needs to propose and then we need to consider.
You know, I go back, when I was in state government, the agencies would have to submit a 5-year plan to the state CIO about all the IT projects that were just on kind of the vision down the road. And we would have to categorize as we are definitely doing this, or this is a wish list, but I think that document may exist in state government. It just might be internal. And that would be at least helpful. It still doesn't tell you, you still have to look in the budget and see what they asked for.
And I think if what the questions or the thinking is getting at is, a one-stop resource where you can see all the spending in IT in a given year, there are some follow-up questions and scoping there that would be a matter of discussion for the executive branch and you all, right? Like what is the threshold at which we care to know about projects? Do we want to know about a $10,000 acquisition of new equipment in an agency, or do we only care above a certain expenditure amount, for example? So I think the resources, sure, it's something that the executive branch and work with you all to put together over time, but there's a conversation to be had around scoping and what exactly is most useful for you all to know. Once again, I'm sure you all probably don't want to receive too much information about, $10,000 computer purchases or anything like that.
But it would be nice to have some context around wow, you didn't propose any funding for CWIS this year. So,
Yeah.
oh yes, I see that you prioritized this IT spending instead. Like it just helps us kind of understand maybe some more contact.
And I think, I may. One other consideration too is, you all appropriate, or not you all, the General Assembly might appropriate large amounts of money for a project called $25 million that's allocated or spent across subsequent years. And I think that's also what you're getting at. Like, how can you all have better visibility into no funds are being spent without the approval of the legislature, but for the large tranches of funding, how do you get better visibility into how that spending is rolled out and distributed over subsequent years in agency budgets?
I'm less concerned about that, actually. I mean, my problem is much smaller. The chair may have that concern, but I'm much more concerned about, in a particular budget year, how do we understand the governor's IT investment priorities?
Yeah, but my question is directly related to this as well. So that I can understand how big of a concern it is for me. So let's say there's a 5-year IT project and we appropriate $40 million for it, and that money's appropriated and it's in a mythical bucket somewhere. And then as each year rolls on, are the expenditures from that 40 million put into the governor's budget? Like this year, we're going to spend 8 of that 40. This year, we're going to spend 0 of that 40. Therefore, reflecting priorities? Or is it a $40 million bucket that sits there to be tapped into over the 5 years as the project rolls forward? And so we don't know. So it may not be possible, or it may be guesswork at best to be putting it in the recommended budget, because it depends on when the vendor does this or that this does that. So I don't know how much of a concern it is for me in the context of looking into the budget to see what's there. Was that clear?
Yeah, it is clear. And I think the Agency of Digital Services, the Executive Branch, Finance and Management would be in the best position to have that conversation with you all.
Yeah.
And if I could just amplify this, I think we all have the same concerns, maybe from a little different perspective, but I'm thinking about, we have, what was it, $780 million in projects on the book, something like that, right? That's a lot of money. And how do we have visibility into where that money's getting spent, and how do we know if we're getting good value for that money, or there's not some sort of insider dealing going on where somebody's hiring contracting out to a company that is, my brother-in-law's cousin or something, whatever. how do we have any handle on this enormous amount of money that we're spending on IT, which I think we need to spend money on IT. But we absolutely need to have far more effective data management and web presence for state government services, because that is how government services are being delivered and are going to be delivered. But how do we know, first of all, what is the scale of the expenditure, and how are we getting good value? Right? That's the big picture question to me. And when I talk into constituents and I'm saying, well, geez, the report says we've got $780 million in projects going on over the next whatever years. It's most of $1 billion. That's a lot of money. So they want to know how are we handling that? How are we controlling that? How do we have a handle on it?
And the concern that I have is just receiving the information when it appears in the budget versus understanding what other big projects are in the pipe. Sometimes I know, sometimes I don't, but it might impact your decisions for this fiscal year and whether or not you choose to put money away for another high profile project or expensive project, critical project that might align more with priorities. So that's what I'm concerned about, just not having the bigger picture of what's coming down the pipe year to year.
Well, overall.
Yes, exactly.
Overall and year.
Not to go too far afield, but just trying to think, I was going to ask Lisa, is there some other example in government we could think of that, has resolved this in some way? So BGS has a lot of investments in state infrastructure, right? I mean, so is that all in the capital budget?
Yes.
So
And transportation is another example.
Yeah.
Of an agency that has huge long-term projects with huge gobs of money.
So that's helpful actually to think about in terms of what, we're not crazy, but this is a little bit hard to see.
But it's not new.
It is not new.
It's not new. I think it's sort of a credit to where the committee is and what they can see and what they know they can't see now. I think it's sort of, it's a maturity of, based on what you've seen in state government thus far and where the problems might be and where additional information could be helpful. But I'd like to follow up with Secretary Riley Hughes on whether or not they do have, what used to be the 5-year plan, that extended list of budgets of projects that they see coming down the pipe. And when do they think they'll appear? Because I think that would be helpful to have that longer view, but I don't, what you're asking in terms of the budget is a good question. And I don't think we have
And that you said is largely an internal, is that the one that you said was more like an internal block or?
Well, I don't know if it's an internal. I think it's just how we've been handling it. I've been told, we'll tell you what projects are in the budget.
Right.
And so when the budget comes out, I sort of wait for that information from JFO.
Regarding what's in
the budget, because it's not easy to pull. You have to go through it all.
Yeah, I would say also that there are a lot of particularities with IT, as with any subject matter, but you all are also circling the same question a lot of folks in this building grapple with, which is how do we track program success and metrics and accountability for the appropriations that we approve. And those are, as someone who's on the budget team and spends time talking with you all in this building about the money that goes out the door, that question, how do we hold programs accountable and measure success, is common to all policy areas. So some of it is particular challenges that are unique to IT, and some of these are foundational challenges in conducting your oversight role too. But
so anything you can do to give us an idea of where to start, that would be very helpful.
I would say you all have worked closely with the Agency of Digital Services thus far. You spent a lot of time working with them on a new reporting dashboard last year. A lot of visibility does go through the Agency of Digital Services, right? I think they're kind of the key nexus here. I think a conversation with Agency of Digital Services about next steps for transparency for you all would be the place to start, right? Defining your goals for what you'd like to know, what kind of documents you'd like at the beginning of each budget session, and what role you might be able to play. I think the agency is your next step here. And in the meantime, any documents that we can help you procure to help shape those questions, JFO, Lisa are happy to do that.
Okay, and I was just meeting with the Agency of Digital Services, talking about their their project initiation process, which was a great conversation. And these types of questions, I think, could inform what their next steps are. They're trying to understand what their options are for implementing a more mature project management system that allows them to track and do better reporting. For example, one of the comments they made to me is like, if we did put expenditures in the project dashboard, which I'm not sure it's the best place for it, they couldn't use that tool because they've already maxed out the columns that they can use for that dashboard. So they do, there's some needs that they have that if we have these conversations now, it could help them in their planning as they secure a new system on what reports we could get off of that system.
So one of my concerns about ADS though, was early in the session when we were taking testimony from them about this change. They appear concerned about not having visibility into expenses also with this change. So if they don't have visibility, how are we going to have visibility?
Yeah.
But I think that impression has evolved somewhat, but still.
Yeah, I think Commissioner Gresham was talking about a modification in the chart of accounts on how they track those projects, so we could grab that. And
Seems like a key piece.
so it is a key piece, and we need to follow through on it.
Because I think when you're talking about a government-wide visibility, right, a budget-wide visibility, that becomes a conversation with finance and management as well as ADS. I think they both need to be in the room for their subject matter expertise. But a bell was going off in my head too, Lisa, about Commissioner Gresham had mentioned perhaps some kind of tag or account code that can be applied as they're preparing the executive branch recommended budget that's, searchable or gives some kind of way of tagging expenses together.
That's actually in our budget letter, and I wanted to remind you guys that you would recommended that we write a memo as a committee to Commissioner Gresham. And I said in my letter that we would be doing that. I don't think we need to do it prior to crossover.
No, I don't think so, because
but I went you were going to help me write that.
Yes, and I'm planning on doing that tomorrow during the snowstorm.
Oh,
so
great. Okay, you're way out ahead of me.
Do it Saturday. Don't have the snowstorm. Yeah.
Well, if that's what it takes, I'll do it on Saturday too.
Okay.
Well, just so you know, that's your time
Yes,
management thing, but I don't think as a committee we'll take that up until after crossover.
That makes sense. It's just a matter of, I think it requires planning on their part.
Yeah, but I don't want to forget.
Yeah. Oh, I won't forget.
Okay.
We've been after this one for a while.
Okay.
But I just, one last item. I think when I think about the projects, I think about the budgeting, which could be helpful in the, if there is a 5-year plan, an extended view out what projects are on the horizon, but then the expenditures, what happens after, how much do these actually cost after the fact, and kind of reconciling those like we, did with the initial budget versus the final budget on implementation in the dashboard. So I think they're two very different things. We just have to focus on both.
Yeah, so I know Commissioner Gresham talked about sending $45 million back to the individual agencies. Is that the lump sum of money that we are allocating for this budget year for computer upgrades?
It's just the authorization power, the amount, not necessarily what they're going to spend.
And specific to FY27 too. So that represents spending authority that otherwise would be given to ADS just in FY27 for those bespoke projects. That's starting this year, FY27, will now be spread out across all the sponsoring agencies. And that practice will continue in future years. So the number may be different.
Yes.
And will be different in later years. But the practice will remain the same going forward.
So last year it was 47 million because that was the cost they needed to spend in that year to support those IT projects.
In FY26.
Well, in FY26, that was the spending authority for that amount. It'll be different next year. this year, the 27, depending on what the amounts of those projects are.
So, great. All right, so I think we're gonna probably move on to our committee discussion and straw poll.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so
you.
much.
Thank you, thank you. It's getting clearer.
All right. So, all right, we've got our letters due tomorrow. And, what I thought we could do is, why don't we go through and talk about we've gone through this in pretty significant detail already. So we could have additional conversation, or, we could just skim through each section and take a straw poll by section.
Do you want to fix the typo first?
No. Yeah, where is it? Is it Al?
go
What did I say? Al?
Under request to additional funding, after it says total increase 14 million. The next paragraph says, as mentioned above, the new 9 million direction appropriation.
Oh, direct
Direct.
appropriate, okay. And then there's Al.
I
I
thought.
said
There
Al.
was an owl in there.
Search, can you do a search on that? Just go do.
I can. I assume every now will be how now. Fine. Brown cat, yeah.
Oh, boy.
Oh, boy. Flow, growing.
Okay.
No, it's all right.
Thing, I'm gonna jump in.
It's okay. It's only discussed below. Now named.
Might fixed it already.
I haven't looked at it since. All I did was make it a PDF this morning, but. Because so I actually don't see how.
It was in there. but-
You remember Al?
Oh, yeah.
Did I fix it?
Here, let's see, I might have it on, let me look at the.
I think it's in the first draft, honestly.
Yeah, it's
Maybe I did
probably
fix it.
fixed it.
I mean, I whipped through it before I sent it to Alex to post. All I did this morning was, so I must have found it and fixed it then. All I did this morning was take out the confidential watermark. Okay, so alrighty, so request 1 is the structural change, so that going from 1 internal service fund to 4. And I said, Hedi supports this structural change, and that's where I was going to add vote. So why don't we do a straw
Oh,
poll?
we're gonna put that in the letter, that our vote for each section.
Yep.
Oh,
That's what we did last year. We're thorough, if nothing else. So, okay. So request 1, straw poll, all good? Okay. 9-0 straw poll. Okay. Request 2, the $14 million in total additional funding. Everybody? Okay, 9-0 straw poll. Request 3, shift in spending authority. I'm going to take out the parentheses there and say raises concerns discussed below. Okay, everybody.
9 abstentions.
Yeah, right? Okay,
Oh, I like that.
everybody ready?
I
Okay.
know 47 million's a little bit too tough for me. I'm only halfway up.
9-0 straw poll, okay. And then our concerns, I don't think we need to vote on our concerns. Okay. Department of Public Service, this is converting the limited service position. And that seems like an easy one. Everybody good with that? Okay.
maybe just bold converting a vacant service position, just so it pops out, you know?
Yes.
Sorry.
Okay. Oh, and I'll do changing the K, I'll bold that too. You note I am a careful color coder and bolder. Okay, so changing the cadence of the telecom plan. Everybody good? Okay. 9-0 straw poll. Okay. Community broadband board, there's nothing to say, I guess. Are we all good with that?
I don't know if I should abstain, so I will.
Okay, so is that 901?
No, eight.
Yeah.
Yeah. 801 with Rep. Sibilia. BC, what are you, board member?
Yeah, basically good.
Board member abstaining. That's good. Democracy hygiene, okay? PUC budget, 9, sorry, very good.
Sorry,
Sorry.
the thing that I just looked at. Do we want to say anything about the budget challenges that they're talking about? Yeah, like,
Yes, okay, so I'm happy to add that.
and he does not want to well,
He doesn't want
I
to.
don't think we should speak for him.
Right.
We can express
So I think we
concern.
should just say to,
So
what's the truth? The truth is that there is a shortfall.
yeah, and
An
this,
ongoing structural deficit.
yeah,
Is that the right word?
I don't know, because I don't
Yeah,
remember.
they're eating into their reserves.
That's right.
Right.
Yes.
And this is why, if people could help me reinforce this, I went to look for that and there was no written testimony.
No.
Nope. That's why I always ask for written testimony, because it's a pain in the butt to go back and watch YouTube.
No, they have annual deficits and they're eating into their reserves. I think he said in 2030, they would be in the red.
Okay, so how do we write something that is not that's accurate?
No, it's not.
Well, and also not
I think it's fair for us to.
big enough or broad enough so that we don't have to go back and check dates and check
You can
amounts.
just say the chair did disclose that.
They have concerns.
Yes.
And we have concerns. It's fair for us to have
Yes.
concerns, even
Yeah.
though we're not speaking for PUC.
Okay, the chair explained that the fee structure is not keeping up with costs, right?
And they are eating into
They're
their
eating into
reserves.
Keeping up with the annual expenses, that the fee structure is not, I said keeping up. The chair explained that the fee structure is not keeping up with annual expenses. And PUC is
Using.
relying on reserves. On reserves that will at some point be depleted. Hedi shares this concern.
Yes.
Okay, so I'll change it to say with no special requests or notable changes for FY27. That he supports the PUC budget, okay?
Yes.
Okay, so I added that. You guys will all see this. 9-0 straw poll. Okay, so that's the heart of the letter. Now I have new information. So not trying to spring anything on you guys, but I was asking Ellen and asking some members of the Props over lunch whether we needed to include a committee recommendation in our budget letter for the appropriation that, should we pass the bill, is contained in H740. That's the greenhouse gas bill. And the answer I got from both Ellen and from Approps is yes. We need to include a section in our budget letter about the money that ANR is requesting if we pass, if H740, the greenhouse gas bill, passes the House, passes the Senate, is signed into law and moves forward. So I haven't written it yet because I just found out. So, and that's also why I think it's important that we are straw polling on each section, because I know different members of the committee are going to have different opinions on that money. So, ANR, when ANR request, came in and presented their testimony on the greenhouse gas reporting framework. They had asked for $800,000, 500,000 base, 300,000 one time. I've been talking quite a bit to Secretary Moore and going back and forth with ANR a little bit to revise the bill as it was originally introduced and make sure it's language that ANR is comfortable with and that they feel it gives them sufficient authority to move ahead with this reporting framework if the bill passes. And as part of those conversations, I asked them whether they really felt that 800K was necessary now. And they concluded that the one-time money could be put off and that the 500,000 base is what they're going to be focused on. So we do need as a committee to put that into the letter because it's a bill that, should we pass it out, is going to be going to approps and they're going to need to hear from us on that. So what I thought we could do, there are two things we could do. One is people probably already know how they feel. We could take a straw poll right now, or I could write the language. I think it's going to take me about 15 minutes and we could reconvene and straw poll on that new language. You guys want to look at it, I assume.
Yeah.
Okay, so questions now?
I will just say I'm generally supportive of that.
Okay,
I'm interested.
okie dokie. Yeah, Brett Powell.
No,
I saw the thumbs down.
right, I am not in support of the 800,000 or the 740. I am not in favor of.
Yeah,
Same with me.
okay. Well, why don't we just take a quick straw poll now and then I'll go write my language. So we've got a no,
I'm a yes.
yes, yes,
Yes.
yes, I'm a yes,
Yes.
yes, no,
No,
yes.
Absolutely not.
Okay, so why don't we go off live and give me a minute to send this language out. We'll get it in the letter, we'll get it posted, and then we'll take a more of a formal straw poll when people have had a chance to read what I'm about to add.
I don't see how we can spend that much money in another appropriation, considering where the state is at financially right now.
Yeah,
That's from a hard no on that.
okay. Yeah, nothing surprising, and I didn't think we were gonna have to add it to our letter, but we should, and so we will, and we'll just vote on it.
We have to add the fact that it may be there if this legislation passes,
Right,
the whole money.
so they have a heads up on it.
Right, that the money's coming, or the request may.
The request may be coming.
But if it doesn't pass, it goes away.
Right.
Yeah, but it's better to put it in there and be like heads up, than to not put it in there and have it be surprised.
no, nice to see you.
If it reaches them.
Thank you. Thank you.
So when a request goes on to Ways and Means and Appropriations, just because legislation passes, does Ways and Means have to come up with the
No.
money and
No,
appropriations have to appropriate? So there still is somebody else may say this may not be affordable.
A lot of somebody else.
yeah,
There's a whole.
totally, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's,
Like,
yeah, okay.
Math has to work.
So this is basically just somebody waving a hand in the corner and saying, we've got a bill that has some money in it. If it leaves this committee, it'll go to approps. And if the money doesn't wind up in the budget that we pass in May, after it goes through House Approps and the floor and the Senate and Conference Committee and all that, if the money doesn't wind up in the budget, then that bill, regardless of whether we've passed it or the House has passed it, it's
Unfunded.
more.
Okay, so
Yeah,
it's
because-
unfunded, but it may come up in future years? If it's already in legislation to do it and it doesn't get funded, does the,
Mm,
Well, like the greenhouse gas committee, it's in legislation, it was unfunded, it went quiet until we decided to kick it back up.
yeah,
we'll look at it. We'll explore that later.
yeah. The question for me about that would be if this is session law, which just would kind of go away at the end of the biennium, or whether, so that's a good question for us.
So it's a the difference between session law and statute.
Mhm. Yeah. Okay, so why don't we go up five? I don't think this could take me very long, and then we'll come back, we'll vote on that section. And then our budget letter will be done. And I'm sorry I didn't, folks,
Me too.
more runway on this, but I just found out.
Yeah.
All right, we can go up five.
Were you